Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well.
Well, hello. Good morning, folks. Good to see a few of you there. Trying to work out some technical issues this morning. Some updates happened and hopefully it's all working. Hey, let me know in the chat if you can hear me, if everything is coming through loud and clear. Out and about today. But hope you're all awesome after a bit of a weekend, bit of time out. Hopefully everything is going well for you wherever you are in the sunny country of Australia. All right, folks. While we're getting rolling along, might just quickly do the quick intros while things are happening. Jason Witten's my name. Most of you know that, though. If you didn't already know, now you do. If you're new, welcome along. Hopefully you found your way here because you're into property investing. This is where we hang out each weekday, talk about the idea of going the distance, creating a property portfolio that at some point in the future, some of our wealth and our income will be generated from our property portfolio. Takes a little bit of time, folks. And if you didn't already know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Give us a shout out in the chat if you're in there. Hey, Margaret, good to see you. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us this morning. There's Bunty in the house. Morning, Dave. Good morning to you. Jeff, you're there too. I'm assuming you can hear me. Which is great. But today I thought we might talk about the idea of diversification. Diversification, I hear it all the time. It actually annoys me because many professionals use the word diversification in a way that might be confusing, or I don't like it. I just don't like it. Anyway, let's talk about that today and talk about how diversification, the concept of diversifying in the world of real estate investing, helps us create equity faster, create deposits faster, create wealth faster, because of understanding a few different things. And we need to make sure that as we go along as property investors, we create the momentum we need in the investing process we have. So let's dive into it today, and let's have a bit of a talk about the concept of diversifying when it comes to investing. So a few of you are in the chat there. What are the 3 types of diversification we can have when it comes to the property world, right? What are the 3 types of diversification we can have in our in our property investing, folks? Put that in the chat for me. Put it in the chat for me as you go along. Let's get this going. I'll draw myself a little. Now, some of you have seen this before. It's not a great drawing, but you get what I'm doing here. All right. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some different types of diversification and investing. Right. Morning, Chris. Good to see you. Hopefully you can see that there. All right, the two main ones for us, folks, as we go along, the idea of location. Where can you purchase location-wise for diversification when it comes to you and your property investing? What helps us moment faster, further, quicker? The types of property, so the property type, and last but not least, this one's not talked about that often, but we think about it, the ownership structure. So how do we own those properties because how you own things can be important. All right, but the first two, let's talk about the first two today, because the second one's a bit or the third one's a bit more quality. Yeah, absolutely, I like that too, Joe. The idea of the quality of the type of property as we go. So let's have a bit of a dive into this and think about the location, property type, ownership, and how does that affect our portfolio and what do we do? Now, the classic way is in Australia we have a number of locations, right? Why is it important to understand different locations, folks, when it comes to the idea of owning properties in Australia? Well, there's a big one. There's a couple of reasons why location diversification is pretty important. The main one most of us know, or we should know. Whack that in the chat for me if you do know. What's the main one we know when it comes to Australia? And one of the little glitches, one of the issues we have when it comes to property investing in the world of AU is a little cheeky thing called land tax, right? Land tax, folks. Land tax, damn land tax. All right. Now, if you owned, let's say you're a Queenslander and you want to build a property portfolio, and depending on how you do this, you might want to, you build a property portfolio. Most mathematical equations, most scenarios we've run, you can go run it yourself with your own calculator if you like, but this is pretty well the gist of it. Between $3 and $4 million worth of real estate, you own that for 12 to 15 years, it goes up in value. The basic mathematics is it doubles in value in 15 years, between 15 and 16 years. Your rents go up as well, and now your debts are lower, you've paid off some of your debt, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, that's the drill. But if you own, let's say, $3 million worth of real estate, or sort of 5 to 6 pieces of real estate in Queensland, your land tax bill, as those properties grow in value, could be quite significant. Stamp duty concessions can be fantastic as well. Nintendo, different states, and different types of property. I was mucking around the other day, sort of chucking a few questions to you guys, going, hey, where do you pay no land tax in Australia, and what type of property can you have? So there's two places in Australia. So the Northern Territory doesn't charge land tax at this moment in time. In South Australia, you can own a property, a commercial property down there, and doesn't pay land tax. So there you go. Hey, good morning, Scott. Good to see you, mate. Thanks for joining. So, folks, we've got a land tax issue when it comes to this sort of stuff. One of the other reasons, now, if you owned, let's say you owned one property here and one property there, one in Canberra and one in Victoria, and let's say you owned one in Perth and you did buy one in Adelaide. If you spread your portfolio around, your land tax will be a lot lower, if not zero. And remember, we talked about ownership, folks, right? We talked about ownership. So land tax, how can we minimize our land tax? Well, you can buy different locations. With property type, folks, how can you minimize your land tax with property type? Put that in the chat for me. How do you minimize land tax with property type? Well, There's a couple of ways. You can buy, there's a little cheeky secret way at the moment. You can buy an SA commercial property, okay, in South Australia, SA commercial property. What's another way you can minimize your land tax when it comes to the property type? Now, this is kind of counterintuitive for some property investors who love the idea of land content. Let's get land, let's get land. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Perfectly fine. Need some land content in your portfolio. Morning, Sonia. Good to see you. Yeah, that's right. Ben's right. Apartments. Now, apartments, units. Now, again, this is, you got to know what you're doing, but the land content is smaller in apartments, so the land value is smaller, so the land valuation is less, and hence often less or no land tax. There you go. Okay, we can navigate this sort of stuff, right? Good idea. And last but not least, ownership, folks. How do you minimize land tax with ownership? Well, land tax is not only state-based, it's land content calculated, but it's also ownership-based. So if you own, your personal name, you might have one in your super, and you might have one in a company trust structure. Okay, each of those have and depending on the state, depending on the state, it has a different threshold for land tax, and you might pay low to no land tax owning 3 different properties in 3 different entities in the same location as well, right? So again, the challenging stuff about this, folks, is we've got to navigate these kind of, these multi-pronged, these matrix style problems and challenges as investors. And listen, this is no different for property investors or business owners or share investors, or it doesn't matter what type of investing you do. There are the government and institutions are trying to put their hand in your pocket. Mongrels, get out of my pocket. However, there's some rules you can follow. There's some processes you can apply that can manage and minimize the amount of money and wastage you give away to people, institutions that don't damn well deserve it. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, right? That's all I'm saying. But one of the main things is, which is really important for us as property investors, what's a really important thing for us as property investors? Most of us have only got a limited amount of deposits we can put into the first part of our property investing. And folks, once we put our deposits in, what do we need? Tell me, what do we need to continue to move forward as property investors? You put your deposit into a property or a couple of properties. What do you need? What do you need to continue to move forward for investing? Well, you need your property values to grow in value, right? So, at any one time, there might be a different cycle going on. They look terrible, don't they, those wiggles? Now, look, there's my picture. You know what's going on. You need some growth. You're dead right, Rosie. You're dead right. All right. So you need some growth. And here's the thing: not every city, not every state is growing at the same time. It's like, the Australian property market. Now, listen, there's no such damn thing. There's many different markets in many different places. Now, there's some general things going on, some general directions. But let's have a look at the concept of diversification when it comes to growth. Yep, absolutely. You need a bit of time. You need some time and you need some growth, Chris, for sure. And that deposit coming back, well, it'll be delivered via growth over time. So let's have a bit of a look at this, because it's interesting to see when you dive into a few things and you go, all right, well, let's have a look at, the, what do we got here? The annual, the Australian homes value 5-year annual average, right? So you look at this. So you're going to, let's have a look at a couple of sections of growth where you go, all right, well, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth in this section here, not doing much, nor was regional. Okay. So from 1995 to let's say 2000, not doing much, but Sydney in that section went up, and Sydney went up again. Everything else came through, right? So, if you were invested in this section here, in that section there, let's say in Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, and regional, your growth would have been, by and large, your market growth. Now, I'm not saying you can't force growth, folks. This is just market growth, right? Your market growth would have been stagnant or sideways, but good old Sydney was giving it a good nudge in this section, okay? And we did have some fairly good run, like a fairly good run in Sydney, right? So then Sydney came off the boil, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth continued to grow. Now, this is the rate of growth, folks, the rate of growth, okay? So it wasn't the total capital growth, it was the rate of growth, right? So, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, the regionals did well. Sydney came off early. The regionals and Brisbane and the rate of growth slowed in this section here. So that was, GFC times, folks. GFC. All right. I'll tell you a few stories about the GFC one day. So then, it landed. So Sydney, so they all in this section gave it a little whirl, right? So then Sydney went flat. And then, regional, Adelaide, Perth went up. So the idea of diversifying and getting rolling growth in different states at different times makes sense, okay, as we go. And you can see right now the rolling 3-month dwelling change at the moment, right? We've got, Melbourne and Hobart, not having a great time in the last sort of 3 to 6 months from a rolling growth perspective. And then, Sydney a little flatter as well, Sydney off the boil a little bit. You've got the other three, Perth, Adelaide, and Brisbane, still ticking along, okay? Now, for my money, Melbourne won't stay down for too long. I like that. Melbourne, the least amount of growth during the COVID sections, but you've had sort of Perth, Adelaide, and Brisbane absolutely crush it. Canberra, Sydney, Hobart, Darwin, not too bad. So, let's have a look at, the median pricing and where things might go. So what's the takeaway really from today? Let's go back to the top of it. It's all gone blank on me, but anyway, there we go. Lost the colors, but there we go. The takeaway really, at the end of the day, there's 3 types of diversification when it comes to your property portfolio, folks. Let's get this up here. 3 types of diversification in our property portfolio: location, property type, and ownership. What are we managing and minimizing? We want to minimize expenses and we want to maximize gains. That's it. Keep the expenses down, accelerate the gains, the gains in our values, the gains in our rental, the gains in, your wealth over time. So that's the idea. Anyway, hopefully that was useful. Diversification. We've had the conversation. Understanding, for all of us, that diversifying into the right location, the right type of property, and the right type of ownership can be pretty significant and important when it comes to your long-term wealth. Anyway, there you go, folks. That's it from me. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted for today. Thanks for joining. Remember, I've got a couple of sayings around here. This thing's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time to build your portfolio. So join us again tomorrow. We'll have another Wealth Coffee Chat. As always, leave some comments in the chat if you want me to have a conversation about a particular topic or some tactics or some strategies. Happy to. Been doing this for over 25 years. Helped over 10,000 Aussies and Kiwis build, start, continue, complete their property portfolios. So along the way, learnt 1 or 2 things. Happy to share. All right, folks. Take care. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow. Bye for now. See you, Rosie. Thank you. See you, team. Bye-bye.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6-Star team here at positivementor.com.au.